This is the Aftermarket Radio Network. Hey, Carm here, and welcome to the 605th episode of Remarkable Results Radio. Now, I want you to invest in this episode, beginning to end. It's one of the most important topics we can talk about today. And hey, I appreciate you and the power you have to make change in our industry. Now, you've heard me say that apprenticing will be an essential strategy to fill the technician ranks in the future. We need to, and we must, collectively engage in a reliable apprentice program at every professional shop in North America. I invited 3 influential apprentice leaders to a virtual meeting I hosted in Buffalo, New York with the independent professional shop owners. This is an episode where there's a lot of how discussed. You know, we can talk a lot about why, but I also realize that making the first step is the only way apprenticing will happen. Hence, an episode to explain and motivate you on how to do it. I believe you already know the why. With me is Mike Davidson, shop owner and creator of an apprentice program that has been put through all the rigors. Mike is president of Industry Essentials. Also speaking is Pete McNeil and Jake Sorensen from McNeil's in Sandy, Utah, who've created their own successful apprentice program, and it was picked up by NAPA nationally. Now, this episode will help you get started. There's a lot in here to understand and learn, so please, A to Z, listen to the whole thing. You know, we need to do this, but there is no super easy button that makes it happen. There's some work you got to do. And now look, I challenge you right now to commit to an apprentice program and engage a willing student who wants to become a journeyman technician. The show notes page contains a link to the PowerPoint slides and links to important sites to help you get started. If you need more information, please reach out to me at carm@remarkableresults.biz, and I'll get you in touch with the right people, provide you the right information, and I'd love to know that you got started. Apprentices will seed your bench, as the need for quality technicians will not go away. But this is exactly what you need to do to ensure the depth you need to do business in the future. Hey, so happy and thankful for the sponsors that make the Aftermarket's premier podcast available to you. You know, the NAPA AutoCare Gold Certification Program offers a premier tier for members to provide consumers with a consistent experience anywhere in the country. Gold certified members earn benefits like preferred referrals, $1,500 in marketing funds, tracks free, and more. To learn about gold certification, speak to your NAPA representative. Hey, please give this episode your all. Please do it for me. Starting off the year here, get in the know. Understanding apprenticing is so important. Don't forget our guests' other episodes, key talking points, link to the PowerPoint discussion, and to Mike's company are all at remarkableresults.biz/E605. Mike Davidson from Parkway Automotive Industry Essentials is the name of his company that he houses so much industry information. The books that he has written, I may have showed you guys this in something, an apprentice book, Wage and Hour. I think you got another one coming out soon, right?
Yeah, I do. It's at the publisher right now, getting edited and all that stuff, and cover made and all that. You're
also an elite coach, right?
I am working on right now doing some leadership coaching starting in January to help shop owners develop leaders within their shop, other people, not necessarily the shop owner, but other people within their organization.
And you just became a John Maxwell certified trainer and coach, right?
I am, yeah.
So respectful of that. Pete McNeil and Jake Sorensen, they were both on, let me see, do I write this down? Town Hall Academy 185, where we talked about the apprentice program that Pete has, that Pete created along with Jake. Jake was point of plow on that, right, Jake? And then Napa looked over your shoulder and said, "Ooh."
Right. Yeah, no, we, as you remember, we did this out of necessity. We really lucked out with our timing as Jake and I realized the need in our market, because obviously trying to fill quality, qualified technicians that are willing to adapt with the new technologies and new trends was just not happening. And as we continued to experiment with a lot of failures, we decided that we were going to start doing something from within. And with my pushing and Jake using his expertise to write the curriculum, we came up with a formula that has worked out very well. And in conjunction, as we were doing this, we were able to work with state representatives, the Lieutenant Governor's office, the adult education that we work with here, and the local high schools as well. And all of that culminated into a program that when we pushed our first apprentice through, that's when NAPA looked over our shoulders and started asking questions, and realized that the makeup that Jake assembled was very easy to follow. And in short, it was a roadmap. And I know there's been a lot of apprentice programs out there that have had to have been generated at other shops. And I think maybe the one that made this a little more unique was one working with the adult ed curriculum. They really helped with some guidelines so we could get this accredited by the Department of Labor. But the second part was, how do we motivate this young new talent aside from a free education? And with that, there needed to be proper pay scales, incentives. Some of that for us were tools that we did and we mapped out with NAPA. So they, at the mid-year point, received a toolbox. At the graduation point, they received a very large credit to assemble additional tools. But there were pay raises that happened within each stage, which on average in this particular cycle is about every 2 months. So, some stages are a little faster, some are a little bit longer, but there was always a reward for the learning and the time. And I really credit Jake with how that was initially set up, because I think that's why this took off as fast as it did. And now we're experiencing some good rewards with the people that we've been able to graduate through the curriculum.
Thanks, guys. We have assembled amongst this team here in Buffalo that plan. And of course, Mike, I haven't given anybody the book, but we've talked about it and I've showed them excerpts from it. And I know your slides, you're gonna start doing that. Great introduction, Pete. Should I put up the slides, Mike, and then you guys could kind of work the ends toward the middle here?
First, I want to just mention I have not had the pleasure of meeting Pete and Jake before tonight on Zoom, and what a pleasure it is to meet you two men. And I know what it has been like for you to get where you are and to do what you've done. And so whether you're in Utah or down south here in Arkansas or up north there in New York, it's a lot of work to do, but the rewards, not only are they needed, but the rewards are really great. I mean, anytime you can pour your life into people to grow them, then there's a huge benefit. And I would say that has been my motivating factor to do what I do now. I still own a shop in Little Rock, Arkansas, and have for 23 years. And the thing that has motivated me to do what I do for the industry is the industry itself and what it did for me, for a kid who barely got through high school and then went to work and, did what my mom taught me as a waitress at Denny's. And that's just work hard and be a good employee. And the industry has been very rewarding for me. And so I think about the other people with stories that are a lot worse than my story, but what they could benefit by being in our industry if they have the right work ethic, but they've got to have that path. And so, Pete and Jake, my hat's off to you guys for what you've done. Certainly, Carm, what you've done in just promoting this industry as a whole in a positive light, because it is an incredible industry, a wonderful industry that can provide a living for a person if they have the right work ethic.
Let me jump in here and say that Pete and Mike's program have been around a long time. This isn't just, the chick didn't just come out of the egg. Pete and Mike, I think both of you have been active to 4 or 5 years with these programs, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I started researching and getting into this in 2010, and my program got approved by the Department of Labor in 2016. So we're 4 years into what I've been doing. So and with that comes a lot of experience from failures and a lot of knowledge that is gained along the way. And I know that Pete and Jake would attest to that. That's we've learned a lot along the way. And that's where I think either one of us can be of great help to any shop that, gets to that point that I've got to do something besides getting my technicians from other places. I've got to start doing something different here, that our experiences, our difficulties, our hurdles that we've had to, go through, go over, go around, whatever. Right. We can bring and share that knowledge with you. I think that's what Pete and Jake and I can bring to the table for all you shop owners, for all the shop owners, really across America. I think so. So I'll just jump in and get through this. I do PowerPoints because it helps me stay on track and keeps me from rambling, as you've just heard me do. so we'll jump right in as to what, and certainly we'll have some time for questions at the end. And then I know Pete can probably think, and Jake both will have something to add as well to this. First, I think it's important to just know about Automotive Trends. And just the average length of automotive vehicles has increased 60% in the last 10 years. And 75% of auto repair still takes place in our shops over the dealerships. Back in 2010, when I started this and I looked at the source from the United States Department of Labor, I really wanted to discover what were the openings. You know, what was reality, what I call outside of bay one, right? Outside of my bays, what's really going out there in the big wide world. And so they do a 10-year projection every 6 years they do a 10-year projection. That's the way they do it. So the U.S. Department of Labor said in 2010 that the projected employment by this year, 2020, would be 848,000 or 124,000 annual openings for automotive technician in our industry across the United States. Move forward to 2016 to 2026. So now we're just taking this and we're just jumping to 2016, seeing that 10-year interval. And it's interesting that it's been a 6% increase. Our 75,600 annual openings is what they're projecting now. So when you look at those two, you have to wonder, why has the annual openings decreased by 50,000? So any ideas there?
It's people getting out of the trade, right? It's the group that's retiring.
I think that plays a role in it. But when we're talking about annual openings, we're also talking about bays that are no longer available. And so that's the role you're talking about, Pete. I think it's very clear when you have a lot of guys that have retired. That's, a lot of guys, two things happens to your business, right? They either sell or they close. And so when that happens to these guys that are sort of retiring out of the industry and they've had shops and they haven't had a good way to transition their shop to another ownership or for sale, then that shop closes. Think of the dealerships that closed as well, or that have combined locations. And so they combine their models together where you'll see, Ford, Chevy, and GM in one building. And so we've decreased the number of bays available. And some of that's by necessity. So I think that's why. But we still have, every 2 years, we have 150,000 jobs available in the United States projected right now through 2026. That would be the point of that slide. Now, if you want to get real serious, and hopefully this will come right through to you guys to see this trend. Can you see this map of the United States? So if we jump up here in New York, and I'm not sure exactly where to put my cursor for you guys, but the point is on this PowerPoint that Carl will be able to share with you, you'll be able to click on this map and get into your area and see what the location quotient is, the number of technicians per 1,000 people. In the area I'm looking at right now, it's showing 3.75. It shows annual wage. Employment's 35,680. There's 3.75 per 1,000 people are technicians, and your annual wage, menial wage is 44,660. Now, I'll tell you guys, I know that number is going to be lower than maybe what you're paying or what you see, but you got to keep in mind that they're including every lube guy, Jiffy Lube, every low end on that number. There's another map you can get to show the medium wage even more differently. But the point is that this website will be on your PowerPoint. And I'll tell you what, this website will be important to you when we talk about grants, because this is information that your local Department of Labor needs to have in order for you to apply for grants, because this will make a difference when they start crunching their numbers. A shop up in Colorado said this to me not very long ago. He said that, I feel like today will be the beginning of the end for staying auto tech. I've tried for months to hire another tech and have tried virtually every method and available avenue. It's become such an issue here that shops are becoming ruthless in their pursuit of technicians. And I can't seem to land a viable B tech, much less an A tech. And so he called it the hostage situation will most likely come to a head today, despite every effort I have made to prevent it. This is a close friend of mine. We continue to work together through this, and he's in a much better place. But I would say that this is a driving force for a lot of shop owners because they feel like they're in a hostage situation. and there's no way out when it comes to having automotive technicians. So I share that because I think it's a voice for a lot of shop owners. I think it's important when we think about what it's going to cost us to do an apprentice program to understand first what one technician produces. Joe Marconi has a shop. He's from the Bronx, and he writes for Ratchet and Wrench. I know Carm knows him, and he does a lot of training with the elite. And he would agree with these numbers that one technician typically should produce about $30,000 a month out of each of your bays. If you have an 8-to-1 ratio of parts to labor, that's $12,850 a month in parts and $17,000 in labor. That's retail. So there's a potential parts cost based on your percentage of gross profit on parts at $64.95 a month or $77,948 in parts purchases per year. Now, the reason this number is important for you to know is getting the parts suppliers involved in the process. Now, good, and NAPA's involved in that. So, because somewhere down the line, they've understood this number and what it means for them, what one technician can buy or produce in parts sales for a wholesale number for one parts store. One technician, one parts store. So those numbers are important to know and have in your mind to even share to get your parts suppliers involved in the process, as Pete has with tools and other vouchers at the end of the program that they have. So in labor gross profit, we just talk about labor gross profit for the shop. That's about $12,114 a month or $145,000 in labor gross profit per year. So when you combine that with the parts GP for a total GP of $221,000 or $18,469 a month. That's what one technician, guys, one technician can do for your shop. And so those are the numbers you have to have back in your head when you start seeing what it costs you to actually put an apprentice program in place. So next we got to know, well, great, we got technicians. We understand there's a need. We understand that there's money there available and what he should produce, but are there cars to work on? So a trade group out of Bethsaida, Maryland, the Auto Care Association recently predicted that there's 81 million autos will be on the road 16 years or longer by next year, by 2021. Now, by comparison, that was 62 million in 2016 and 35 million in 2002. So you can see the increase of the number of cars on the road. So they're coming. We've got fewer bays, right? We talked about that in the beginning. We know what a technician can produce, and we know how many cars are available to us out on the road. I said this a minute ago, well, you own your shop forever, because as we know, you will either close your shop or you will sell your shop. Having an apprentice plan in place where there's a culture of learning adds value to your shop. So when that day comes that you sell your shop, because that's what we want you to do. We don't want you to close it. We want you to sell it. Then having that apprentice program in place is going to increase what you can ask for that shop because it adds value to that shop that you have a culture of training. And so as you can see, there are shops being purchased. This one automotive group acquired more than 225 shops last year, and a Memphis chain, 12 stores of it were bought up. So investors are seeing that there's money in automotive shops, but they have to be valuable. They have to have things in place, and an apprentice program is certainly part of that value for the shop. So when you have a prospective person making a decision, I can tell you that this is the one of two journeys that they're going to choose from. Every apprentice that I've had the opportunity to work with, they've made a decision between one of these two journeys, either a technical school or an approved apprenticeship program. The fact that it's a DOL approved apprenticeship program brings value to the program itself. It's just not you saying, hey, come here and we'll train you. It's giving them a very viable, and I think Pete and Jake would both agree, these are tracks to run on that gives value to the program itself. It's not just some hodgepodge thing that a couple of guys threw together. There was a lot of thought and work put into the program. So just by comparison, when we think about the technical schools, and this is the comparison your apprentice is going to make. If they go to technical college with a 4-semester program, that's 22 hours a week, 176 8-hour days. So 3 hours of high school plus 4 semesters at a technical school, that's 281 8-hour days. So ASE alone requires 508 8-hour days on the job before a single certification can be issued. And I'm talking 5 days a week for 2 years of on-the-job training before they'll give you a single certification. That's what they're dealing with when they go to a technical school. When you come into an apprentice program, you have the 2 years, and at the end of the program, you receive your certifications because you're done. You have the 2 years all along the way. So the apprentice program steps are really pretty easy. First, just have a plan. That's what you need. And that's what Pete and Jake and NAPA have put together. That's what I've put together is a plan. It's going to show value. You sit down with a student and their parents, and you're showing them either a college or your plan. You've got to have that to be able to show them there's something viable, something solid, something strategic about your plan, that there's actually a roadmap for it. Next is choosing the right mentor. I know Jake could add a lot to that and what that means for him as an individual. And you want a guy like Jake that mentors people. It's usually not necessarily, and you might have been this, Jake, but it's not necessarily your top producer that's your best mentor. And you have to understand that. You've got to decide and determine who the best mentor is. So there's things and character traits about that mentor. Choose the right apprentice. Hey, look, guys, we get to choose who comes into our industry. And I think that's important for all of us to get our arms around that. It's not just someone that can fog a mirror, which is sort of where we've been in the industry. We want quality people that have the ability to understand theory and operation, that have reading, writing, and arithmetic, can understand Ohm's law, can understand the challenges that are before. So choosing the right apprentice. And then fourthly, the final step is making sure you can measure results. Measuring results not only helps you as a shop owner, it's going to help the apprentice know where he is in the plan and in the program, the mentor to know what he needs to be teaching, and also those results will help you with applying for grants that are available in your state. So for the mentor, it provides a place to give back and a sense of belonging. It's a relationship that lasts a lifetime. I know Jake would attest to that. His mentor, he'll never forget him. He'll never forget the things he learned from his mentor. Every apprentice he has will always remember Jake, will remember everything and how he poured into his life. It's not just somebody he worked with. It's somebody that actually changed his life. That's what we're talking about. And you as a shop owner have the opportunity to make this happen for an individual, for a person to literally change their life. For the apprentice, you give a clear career path, something that they need. A lot of these guys and girls just like, they know they want to do this, but they don't know how to get in. But you're going to offer that. A real sense of gratitude. They're going to be so thankful. And Jake, I know you would speak to this about Pete and look what Pete has provided to allow you and to give you this opportunity. And now you are doing the same thing yet again. And so the gratitude toward your company, your facility, and your people is much higher in the minds of an apprentice that you've brought through a program than just someone you hired to be a technician. And so it's a relationship that lasts a lifetime. For the shop, hey guys, we know what we've been faced with. No more recruiting from other shops. No more lost revenue of $1,363 a day. By the way, the average time it takes to replace an employee is 42 days. So you just do the math right there and you can see what it costs you. You can do that pretty quick in your brain. Create a culture of training. And that's what an apprentice program is going to do. You will be raising the standard in your industry, in your neighborhood, that we are a place that people learn. And what's amazing is the other people on your staff, they begin to see that they begin to even challenge themselves to get better and to grow and not just remain the status quo, as a technician. So the whole thing about an apprentice program has so much more than just the fact that you're trying to replace an individual in a bay.
Hey, Mike, that happened big time at McNeil's. Am I right, guys? That whole sense of that culture of learning, all the ASE stuff?
Yeah, when we started the apprenticeship program, I think we had 3 ASE master techs. Now we're at, I believe it's 7. But just number of ASCs is about quadrupled. So the older guys definitely see the apprentices coming, getting their training, nipping on their heels, and it really pushes them to train more, learn more.
Yeah, that's good. And I think of it like this, guys. I think about we're all boats in a harbor. When you start filling the harbor up with water, in the sense of learning and creating that culture, then all the boats rise.
Mike, you said one thing that I thought I jotted two things that you mentioned. I think the challenge that we're all facing out there is there are technical training schools, but the challenge is making people aware that there are apprentice programs, right? Whether that communication is happening at the high school level, at the adult education level, and even when we promote or advertise in our local market in the publications, I think that's a hurdle that we're all still going to actively have to work on for the next 2 to 3 years. And then I think coupled with that is the perception. Jake talks about all the time. There's still a very construed perception about income opportunities and really where the industry is going. And we've got to do a better job of clearing their heads and giving them more of a realistic expectation on where those ceilings are and really where the opportunities are, because I think they're obviously much different than they were 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And we've got to get a loud horn and really broadcast this better than we've done.
Yeah, I agree. And, there's I'll tell you a place that I have found great success in finding apprentices because their parents are really concerned about the influence of college life for their students, and that is the homeschool community. So reach out to homeschool groups on Facebook. Advertise, homeschools are very organized these days. They have yearbooks and they have proms so get involved in that organization in your area to touch them and let them know, because those parents that they're more plugged into their students a lot of times. They also know for sure if their particular student might be more mechanical or hands-on or what have you. And so they're very much involved in that decision-making process for that student. To move forward. So look closely at the homeschool community. You also find students that have been learning on their own since they were 4 years old. They've been at home sitting there doing their schoolwork or whatever, their mom, and they say yes sir and no sir and yes ma'am and no ma'am. I mean, it's really cool to see what happens.
Great pathways. No, I love hearing that.
Yeah. Ultimately, as I also said for the shop, it's going to increase the value of your business when you have an apprentice program, which again is going to secure your future. So when we talk about choosing the right mentor, they need at least 5 years experience in the field as an automotive technician. They need to be at your shop for a year. I wouldn't recommend just hiring a person to be a mentor and them not work in your shop for at least a year. You want to know what they're going to be teaching that person. So if you discovered that, hey, I don't really have a mentor here, I'm going to go out and hire one, then which is another way to really hire a great technician, is you're hiring an opportunity for them to be a teacher in your shop rather than just another technician. That I've seen that move great technicians from one place to another because it gave them a place to give back because that's what they wanted to do. But they should work for you for a year so you can make sure you guys are on the same page and they've bought into your culture. They need to have good communication skills and a very sincere interest in a well-being of apprentice. And I would say it this way as well. They need to really care about other people, and they really need to have a desire to want to add value to other people. So when we talk about the apprentice, 18 years of age, have a high school degree or GED, have a valid driver's license. They do have to submit to an illegal use of drug under the DOL program. There is an application that is filled out. They have to agree to follow the program guidelines and best standards of practice, and so does the shop. And most importantly, I highlight and bold this, and that is they must fit your culture. Understand what your culture is as a shop owner and hire accordingly. When you do that, your shop's just going to grow as a result of that.
I think this right here, in my opinion, is the best part of the apprenticeship program, of any program. When you're hiring technicians, you're looking for their skill set, their knowledge, what they have right now. You can't really pick attitude, work ethic, a lot of those things. You just have to deal with what you get because there's not options out there to choose from. But with the apprenticeship program, you're going to be teaching them everything and training them the way to do things, right? So you can look for those real skill sets that you need as far as, dependability. They can get along with the people in your shop. They're open to learning, all those things. And then I was going to comment on the last slide too. You mentioned making sure that mentor has been with you for a while. I actually just heard about a shop last week that was implementing an apprenticeship program, and said, hey, we just got a guy on. He's going to be a great mentor. And I thought that's insane to have somebody mentoring the people in your shop to do things the way you want things done when they haven't really worked with you to see. So I think that was a great point, that you need to make sure that mentor is the person you want training. They're teaching the way that you want cars repaired, you want them diagnosed, how you want things done in your shop.
Yeah, all good points.
Yep.
Yeah, all good points. So I think it's always important to understand the cost. And so this goes back to 2017 for a typical apprentice. And I'm not going to go over this whole spreadsheet with you, but I'm just going to show you it's important to measure the results. And I'll just take you down to the lower right-hand corner because it's important to have the right expectations. As you know, you're going to hire an apprentice. It's going to increase your payroll. You're going to put a mentor to work. It's going to decrease your production. So what is that going to cost you per hour? Well, this spreadsheet and this formulas that have been calculated in here helps you know what your cost per hour is at the beginning. This was at the beginning of a program, and this was however many weeks that is. I think it's like 12 weeks. And the cost per hour was $23.87 an hour is what it cost to run the program in the beginning. Again, I won't bore you with all of that. We can talk more about it later. But in his last 24 weeks, and this particular apprentice, this guy, he was in the building 1,048 hours. He was under the hood of a car 996 hours and produced 1,000 hours in the last 24 weeks of his apprenticeship. All right, so that means that he was 95% productive and 100% efficient. Because we measured this from the very beginning, we watched that go up. And so we knew that he was learning. We knew that the mentor was doing his job. We knew the apprentice was grasping the competencies that he needed to be successful as we watched the scale grow. So this helped us determine that. So next, when we got done at the end, his cost per hour is now making $8.76 an hour as we got toward the end. So I went from a cost to, from the red to the black by the end of the program, as we saw him continue to produce and increase. The main point in both of these is that you understand your mentor cost per hour, because it's these numbers right here that the state needs to know in order to provide grants for you. Because when you're paying flat rate or you're paying hourly, you've got to somehow determine like, okay, so this guy's they're still producing work, right? And the state wants you to account for that you are still producing work. But there's also this cost involved. So the mentor cost per hour spreadsheet helps you determine what it's actually costing you so that you can provide the right amount of money. In this case right here, where we had $36,000 in our cost over the time, I was able to get $30,000 in a grant from the state for this apprentice. And so, they're not going to give you all the money, but they are going to help you along the way. Every state has a different amount of money. And how that's done is a little bit different with each state. But again, I've got the experience and have been involved in it enough that if you don't have the cost per hour, then you're not going to be able to show the state, because here's what they're looking at is what's their return on investment. How are we creating a taxpayer that's going to pay in more taxes because he's making more money? It's just numbers for them.
Hey, Carm here, and coming up, learn about awards and incentives for your apprentices. Hey, it's Carm here. Today, I have a special message for NAPA AutoCare centers who are looking to take the next step in growing their business and partnership. Now, if you're ready to strive and take it to the next level, NAPA invites you to consider Gold certification. Gold certification is a premier tier of NAPA AutoCare that recognizes repair shops with a higher level of participation in the AutoCare program. The program was built by AutoCare centers for AutoCare centers to provide a consistent consumer experience, maximize technology leverage, and reward NAPA's most committed partners. When consumers visit a Gold certified AutoCare center, whether it's a small facility in a rural community or a multi-bay shop in a large metropolitan area, they can expect a first-class service repair experience. This includes a well-trained staff using today's technology and quality NAPA parts in a comfortable, up-to-date facility, Customers at Gold certified shops will also enjoy an extended parts and labor warranty, valuable saving opportunities, along with access to credit to pay for needed repairs, and a whole lot more. Here's what you need to qualify for the program. First, you need to be an active AutoCare partner for at least 12 months and have a steady business presence in your market for at least 2 years. Then to become Gold certified, it's necessary to meet specific requirements, chosen because they create the most consistent consumer experience and proven to generate the most significant results for AutoCare centers across the country. Some of these include using digital vehicle inspection, having at least one ASE Master Certified technician, a co-branded exterior, and offer consumer financing through NAPA Easy Pay. You must also be an active member of a business development group. Once your shop achieves Gold certification, you'll receive a number of benefits, including priority placement on NAPA's shop locator pages, an allowance for marketing funds, 3636 peace of mind and local labor coverage, access to AutoTech training, NAPA Tracks shop management system, smart sign digital menu board, and more. Talk with your servicing NAPA store to find out everything you need to know about becoming a Gold certified shop. Mike, is that money that comes into the shop?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it comes directly to the shop. Well, it's always on a reimbursement. All these grants are reimbursement. They don't pay you in advance. They pay you behind. So you got to show the cost. And that's why the mentor cost per hour is so important. And so like in this case right here, I'm in the middle of applying for a grant for the state of Arkansas where I'm able to show, in this case right here, my cost for this, I think this is 12 weeks, however many weeks this is $16,000. And I'm looking at applying the grant that's available is 75% of my cost.
Michael, another question. This is about mentor costs and or then you have an apprentice cost. Can you get money on both or combine them?
Yeah, it's combined. So if you look over to the left, you'll see, and I'll just share this quickly. Over here's your apprentice cost. Over here's your mentor cost. Here's your gross sales. And then what your gross profit percentage is, and down here's your target. And so the difference is what it's costing you, and then how many hours are in the building at $15.06 an hour. And that's the number. Every single grant application will ask you what's your cost per hour, and then somehow you've got to figure out the cost after they have produced work still for you. And
one additional thing, Mike, if anyone wanted to get involved with your program, they would get these spreadsheets to help them?
Oh yeah. And yeah, in fact, I'm getting ready to share what's next on that.
Thank you. Pete, NAPA provides all this too?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, they've got the workbook and all that. Yep.
Okay, great.
What I haven't been able to see yet, if they have developed a mentor cost per hour, they do have the workbook and the mentor sheet. I haven't seen anything, and because Pete, you might speak to that, because I just it doesn't mean it's not there. I just haven't seen it where you're able to determine the mentor cost per hour in order to apply for a grant.
No, we didn't do anything on the grant side at all, Mike.
Okay.
No. But we did figure out the calculation of what the cost factors were on the front side, versus what the benefits were after the apprentice had graduated. Yeah.
But Pete, you guys did go to the state of Utah and got money.
Yeah, there were different monies, but a lot of this was for building the curriculum. We were not getting reimbursed on our end for the training that we did for the apprentices. So again, a lot of the resources that were made available, a lot of the shops that were in our area that were not funded and were not up to speed with technology and computers and tools, we helped kind of pave the way to get a lot of those brought up to speed, so to speak.
Well, Mike, you're actually taking blocks of time throughout the program and applying for grants throughout the program. You're not waiting until the student's completely done with it.
Right. And here's what I've discovered, Tom, is that if the shop can get some assistance for the first year of the program, even though it's a 2-year program, if they can get assistance for the first year, after that first year, that apprentice is usually producing enough that you can it's more affordable for you. It doesn't hurt as bad, and you get a little closer to your gross profit target. In this model, we're looking at a gross profit margin of 73% for labor only. That's what we're trying to achieve.
The beginning of the program is going to be the more expensive part of the program. So if you can get a grant in the first 6 months it's going to help sustain that program.
Typically what they do is they look at it in quarters. And so you apply for the previous quarter so that you're able to show them the numbers. You can show them, what the technician has achieved, and you can show them, they'll want to know what his wages are. And then you'll be able to show them all of this. And what is interesting about this document and this spreadsheet is the apprentice and the mentor information is all backed up by your payroll reports, and your gross sales is backed up by your point of sale. So it gets a little difficult to fudge the numbers for a shop to do that. And now that's not important for me and you to know, but that's important for the state to know, right? Because they want to know, okay, like, can they just put any number they want in there? Well, no, you can back this up with payroll and with point of sales numbers.
One thing I'd add on this, I know there's a lot of different options for reimbursement on wages and everything. And what we've found here, a lot of it's through the state, and you have to apply for this stuff before the apprentice starts in the program on a lot of the grants that we've found locally. So make sure if you are going to do this, you look into that beforehand. So a lot of them here, they reimburse their hourly rate. They just ask you, what are you going to pay them? And then they'll remunerate you for the hourly rate that they make. But if you hire them on, put them in the program, a lot of times it's too late and you can't get on those.
And are these grant opportunities on Department of Labor's website? Are they on the state website someplace? Where do you find them?
That's a great question. So every state's going to be different. And so let's follow the cycle. First, the government takes the money from you, and the federal government takes the money from you, and then they give it to the state. And then the state is the one that distributes the money to the grants, and then the grants distribute the money to you as a shop owner. So in every single state, it's going to be a little bit different. So for instance, where Jake talked about applying ahead of time that, hey, I'm going to have an apprentice and this is my wage hour. In Arkansas, they just want us to show that when he enrolled, and then we're going to look back and pay. And where here they're paying, you see here, they're paying what my actual cost is for the program at $15.06 an hour to get me to my GP, closer to my GP in labor, where in Utah, looks like they're paying they would probably just pay the wages of the apprentice, right, or maybe even a percentage. So every state's going to be different.
Right.
But the important thing is that you have the numbers to show them. It's a little intimidating because it's new to you, but getting in with the Office of Apprenticeships within your state is the first step.
The Office of Apprenticeships in New York State. That's what this local group's going to have to figure out. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Mike.
That's step one. Yeah. So that's what happens. And so when I think about, first of all, let me say, guys, the reason I'm even able to do this, I've owned a business for 23 years. I have a succession plan in place that started this year. That's over the next 7 years. I only work at the shop 2 days a week, and I really don't do a lot. And so now I pour my time in to things I can give back to the industry. And so that's how I have been able to do what I'm doing and continue to do it. Some people think I don't sleep, but I really do. I do sleep, but we just work, it's just me giving back. But so what I do here with Industry Essentials is sort of the DBA of all I do for the industry to keep it separate from Parkway's business. Is I provide best practices, which is in the book I've written. A mentor guide is in there, apprentice guide. I help with Department of Labor certification, or the program is certified by the DOL. I monitor progress. I have a lady that works for me that sends emails every month to the apprentice and the mentor to make sure that they're on track and that they're sending their spreadsheets in, so we're tracking their progress. I consult the shop owner. I help with the application of the certificate once they're done with the program. I help with locating apprentices, as I spoke earlier about homeschoolers. There's a workbook for the mentors, just like NAPA has. We measure the progress of the apprentice, and the cost tracking for the shop owner takes place in our program, the mentor cost per hour, so that it's important, guys, as a shop owner, that you always know what the program's costing you. And by the way, I share that cost with my mentor and apprentice. Every week I go out there and show them what it cost me the previous week for them to be in the program, for me to do that. Because I think it's important for them to know, because they can begin to see themselves what kind of contribution they're making to the success of your company. So that's why I believe in sharing that. And so if we were to say, what do you do from here? One, you can go to industryessentials.net. And so what we've done here is the whole website has the apprentice technician program. You can also learn about wage and hour. I created a video that just shows you, and I think this is like it's like a 20-minute video that shows you how to put the plan in place in your shop. I mean, it just is that simple. All the documents that you need to run the program and how to operate those documents are listed here. And here you'll have a check sheet, Department of Labor check sheet. We put together recommended reading material. I hope you can see this. And this is huge because this has really helped the mentors a lot. Can you see, guys? Can y'all see Word coming up?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what we did is we took each one of the subjects or the headings that the Department of Labor put into place, and we researched and found videos that match both what the Department of Labor is calling in each of these areas, each of these headings. But we also use a textbook is Jim Halderman's book, which is a great book. If you have him, it's like 900 pages, this thick. I should have one with me to show you. So we use his book that goes for the mentor to assign work to the apprentice. But as you can see, we have all these videos for him to go through, whether it's tires, our scheduled maintenance, on and on. I won't stop too long, and suspension and steering. So all the headings that match up to the Department of Labor requirements, we've got these additional videos and related training opportunities for the mentor to assign to the apprentice. And then next, we have the mentor guide. We have the appendix that the employer has to assign as a DOL shop, the agreement for the apprentice to sign, the work schedule, and then we have the time record, and the mentor cost per hour calculator is all here. Now, this is something you haven't seen. Again, make sure that you can see an Excel spreadsheet coming up.
Yeah.
Okay. And so what we've done here, I talked about the apprentice always knowing where he's at and the mentor to always know where he's at. So what we developed here is this is month 1, day 1, and each day he calculates how much time he's in the building. That's here right over here under available time, and then shop safety and how much time he spent in each one of these areas throughout the day. And there's formulas in here that do everything the way they're supposed to. Down here at the bottom, it auto calculates how much time he spent in each one of the areas. Now you see 4 years here. It is a 2-year program, but we told the Department of Labor we wanted 4 years in there because life happens to people. And so we wanted room for that. If something happened, they had to leave, or if something happened to the mentor or whatever, we laid it out as a 4-year plan, but can be completed in 2 years. And so every day, every moment, the mentor knows here's the goal and how much time he has left. So if I were to throw 3 hours in here, for example, in this calculation, then each one of those would be auto-calculated, and then this number would be deducted so that we reach the 4,000 hours of on-the-job training and 288 hours of related training. All the competencies are kept up here. And this is the piece that's mailed back to Jennifer, my office manager who manages this. This is all she does. She's a work-from-home gal. All she does is my apprentice stuff. She doesn't do anything else. She just manages this for me. So that's what happens with these forms. And all of this is on the site. So you have a site if you wanted to be able to show someone about the program and what it is you have to offer. Then everything is here for you of what it is, what it's about, what they'll learn, everything that they might need to know. Enrollment, program cost. The apprentice pays a registration fee under our program at $1,400 the first year and $1,400 the second year. And for me, it's just a matter of the student having some skin in the game. That's just the way I believe it ought to be done. We're giving the guy quite a deal, right? We're giving him quite a career. And so when they make that they're investing in themselves. It's not a lot of money. We know that in comparison to the cost of the program, but it does cause him to make an investment in himself, which he should be willing to do when you have the right person.
Apprentice pays the shop that, or who's paying?
The apprentice pays Industry Essentials. That's their registration fee for us doing all the registration and all that we do. We have also on the site have a place for veterans. So there is an application for veterans that goes right to the VA website so that they apply for their housing assistance and that sort of thing if you hire a veteran into the program. So we've made it all, pretty easy for them as well. Main thing is that everything about the program is there and what it's going to do. When it comes down to the business and the cost for the business, as I told you and I started with, you can just buy the book and put your program in all by yourself. You can download the documents and work to understand them. And the book costs $24.95, and you can just go get them, Tiger. Okay? So you can do that. Option 2 is that I come in and I just help you and putting this together for a period of 3 months, getting things moving and setting things up. That's what I've put together over the last 10 years. And so to help you guys get this program solid for apprentices and, giving them a place to go, a place to make it happen.
Love it. Good stuff.
Guys, it is a journey. It's not an event. It's a journey that we can all be on together. But they're there. I'm telling you, there are guys there in your state that want to be in our industry, that starve, that want to know, but they don't know you have a plan available.
Right.
And that's why if you have that plan and you meet that person, then you're gonna hook them. You're gonna hook them.
Jake or Pete, can you share where your last few apprentices have come from?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I think that's actually probably the easiest part of this is finding the apprentices. Once you put that information in front of anyone, they realize the opportunity that's there and they want it. So we have several that we found just through placing ads on the classifieds, job wanted. We usually have to shut the ads down pretty quickly because we get inundated with so many applicants. We just look through them for a few key things like have they stayed anywhere for length of time? Have they tried to work in the industry at different places that might have relevant training? But then we've also had others that have come from within. We've had, for example, our first apprentice started in our lube bay, working as a lube tech. He eventually was managing our lube bay, and he just did not like it at the front counter. He wanted to be more hands-on, and that's where we decided he'd be a better fit as an apprentice. So we found him from a lot of different paths, but that doesn't seem to be the hardest thing. I'm telling you, once you get going, that really starts to roll. We also have apprentices or people that'll come in and ask about it. They've heard from a friend that we have an apprenticeship program. They've heard from the local school that we have an apprenticeship program. Word starts to spread and they start coming to your door.
Yeah.
I think one thing I was just going to echo, the gentleman that he's about 70% through the program now was a pharmacy tech. And, again, to think that somebody would make that dynamic of a shift in their career path, but he read the ad and thought it wasn't real. You mean I get to get paid into an industry I have interest in, and there's a roadmap. And I think we just need to figure out how to scream that louder, because when we have promoted it, some people feel that it's too good to be true. Again, I think, you've got to present it in a fashion that creates that excitement.
Yeah.
I believe just to tell the customers, talk to the moms that are walking in, get a sign up at the counter, use Facebook when you promote something going on in your business. Hey, we've got a brand new apprentice program. We're looking for a few good men and or women. I mean, I think that's how you get noise made.
Yeah. Yeah. So we created a video for shops to use for promoting an apprenticeship program. And another good source is nextdoor.com. So again, Pete mentioned customers. That's a really great place. I have gotten an apprentice from a customer. I've gotten an apprentice from nextdoor.com. I've gotten an apprentice from homeschool community. And I Jake and Pete are exactly right. There are more people out there than you might realize that want to get in our industry. They just haven't seen that there's a path available.
I think one thing that needs to be brought up, and Jake and I talk about this often, I really don't believe the challenge is getting people enrolled. I think what we've heard from many, many shops is so many want to push a button and assume this program goes on cruise control, right? Somebody comes in the front door and you sign them up and you explain what's happening and you hand them a book and everything just miraculously takes care of itself. The mentor and the coaching, I believe, is just so important. And there's time invested. It takes a lot of time. It takes commitment. And the reward, no question, is mammoth at the end of this run. But it requires work. And there is no quick, easy pathway.
Yeah.
Do all the people that go through your program, Pete, do they have jobs with you?
It's a great question. I was just thinking back. We have, this last person we just spoke about, this pharmacy tech, he will be our fourth. So out of the four, one is an ASE master. He was the very first graduate from 4 years ago plus. The other gentleman that was our second graduate is now one of our highest producing technicians. And then the other one is actually down at a new location that we just opened. So, we've got four. We did have one that had been with us for about 7.5, 8 months that ended up leaving. The challenge was too challenging, and that happens. But that happens with employees you hire off the street just when you're trying to find somebody. So, no question, the good has outweighed those that haven't worked out. But it's been awesome, right?
The biggest stumbling point that I see within my own shop is having the mentor available at this point, because obviously with the shortage of technicians, we haven't been able to hire those upper level technicians because they're just not out there anymore. At this point in my own situation, I would be the mentor until I could get that person up and running. That is probably the biggest stumbling point within my own situation, is having that available mentor.
I would say, Tom, that if you're able to hire someone to be a mentor, if you were to market the fact that you are looking to hire a trainer, a mentor technician, not a technician, then you might discover that person that is of your caliber that's working at another shop and says, what am I going to do? How am I going to end well is the question I like to ask them. How are you going to end well? Are you just going to turn your last boat and call it done? Are you going to start giving back to the industry and pouring your life into someone else? There's a great reward for that person individually when you've provided a path for them. So, look for opportunities like that says, I have a mentorship available. And then when you meet with them, they do have to work with you for a while. I mean, you can't just throw them in and they're the boss for a person. You got to be able to present that right. And those are some of the things that I've learned over these last 10 years and that I'm able to help coach you through all that, because those are things that you need to get your arms around so that you can possibly hire that person. I would say that person's probably closer than you think.
I do have a quick question, I think. Quick. How do you pay the mentor? Do they still get paid this, like their normal rate, or do you bump up their pay for the 2-year program, or how would you structure that?
I'd say they're probably all different all over the country. And I think that's where what I have counseled shops to do, Matt, is to say, look, have a very candid conversation with your apprentice or with your mentor. And when you use the mentor cost per hour as an example, then you can see what's the program costing you and saying, look, this is new to me. It's new to you. And we're going to put this in place, but we're going to put a sunset on it so we can observe it together and see if we need to make any changes in the pay structure going forward. It's just about having a candid conversation. They're all different all over the country, because we're all independent, right? That's we have that in our name for a reason. I think it's about not necessarily doing it my way or doing it Pete's way. It's about saying with your mentor, say, look, here's what I'm thinking. Tell me what you think. What does this look like to you? But we're going to track the cost, make sure that the ROI is in place, and just know that we may need to make adjustments along the way because we're both learning this together. And that way you're able, you won't be doing a program that's too uncomfortable for you as a shop owner.
Yeah, there's definitely no one way to do that. And I think the biggest factor is, what is the pay structure in your shop? How is your mentor being paid beforehand? And what is it you want to get out of that apprentice? But, to kind of give you an example, we, in our second location now have Rex, our first graduate. He's now mentoring an apprentice over there himself. And so for him, being paid on flat rate, the first few stages of this apprenticeship program, the first few months, he's getting whatever that apprentice produces. So he's helping him do inspections, he's helping him do flushes and things like that, pulling cars in and out. And that's raising Rex's hours. So he's making more money, and that's his benefit. Once it gets into the later stages where it consumes more of Rex's time, he'll get a percentage of what that apprentice generates. And the percentage changes with each stage. But those are the things that you've really got to make sure you work out beforehand, make sure that the apprentice, believes that he's getting fair compensation, and then reevaluate it as it goes. Our first plan, we found out after the fact that the apprentice was able to produce quite a few hours, and we ended up paying a lot higher hourly rate than we probably should have. So that had to be readjusted after the fact. So your first plan doesn't have to be your last plan.
I think the key is you just don't want the mentor cannot feel like they're taking a step backwards, right? I think from an ownership perspective, we want to create buy-in, we want to create excitement, and agree, Mike. I think that has to be something that's just monitored on a monthly basis. And as long as they know that commitment level is there, they need to feel like they're progressing with the program, just like the apprentice is.
And then, of course, you deal with all the wage and hour law, which it actually was all of this that took me to write the other book on wage and hour compliance for the automotive industry, because it's a slippery slope and a tricky place for us.
Right.
Apprentices get paid a lower rate, or do they get paid at a standard rate at let's say minimum wage? Or
yeah. So under our program, the apprentice starts at minimum wage, and then as he completes competency, so he's in charge of his growth, right? And so as he completes competencies, then there are increments of 5% increases up to 85% of a journeyman's wage at the end of the program. And then what I counsel shop owners in is that's when you renegotiate a compensation package that looks more like your regular technicians, whatever that is.
Right. Ours is very similar. So I think it's stage learning with stage rewarding. And, as you get done, we're seeing we've got a mixed hat here in pay plans, right? We've got some guys that really thrive off a flat rate. We have hybrids with flat rate with some hourly guarantees. And I think the industry is morphing more that way to try and adopt and adapt to the special skill sets that each one of these technicians have. So, yeah.
So if I'm understanding it correctly, at the beginning of the program, the apprentice tends to be more of an assistant to the mentor. And as the apprentice learns, and he then takes on more responsibilities and starts being more of an independent worker.
Exactly. So like Mike mentioned, there's competencies. So once they've proven competency in a specific category, like let's say brakes, then they're able to take on brake work where the mentor doesn't have to be as closely involved. And once there's enough of that taking place, we transition them to where they're getting paid partially based on hours generated. And now the mentor gets a percentage of that.
The first thing we do is we spend time introducing the apprentice to everything in the shop that can kill him.
Yeah, right.
We spend a good amount of time doing that in the beginning.
Hey, thanks so much for being here, Mike, Pete, Jake. I can't tell you from the bottom of my heart to help this local team. I think this was a heck of an episode that we maybe could publish because there was so much good information to be shared. So thank you for being here, and thanks to Team Buffalo.
Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from the premier automotive aftermarket podcast. Until next time,